Okay, I know I'm probably on. It says starting, so normally I'm on when it's starting. Anyhow, here I am again. Another night. Yep. But anyhow, I'm here with Anna. Just so you
G'day,
know.
g'day.
Yep. And I want to start off addressing something here.
I'm here.
Out there he is. Well, hello, Warren, and welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
G'day, Warren.
Hey.
So anyhow, before we get talking here, I want to address something that's been going on. Okay. And I'm going to address this straight up one time only for people. It'll be here when the recording comes up. So if anybody shows up in the chat, whatever. Okay, let's talk for a couple minutes. I'm going to talk about Steve Hoka, and then I'm going to address True Force Loneliness from Toronto.
Yeah, I was just getting caught up on that too. It's odd that you bring up the whole Steve Hoka thing.
Okay,
I just seen that there was a big. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was just looking at that.
Yeah, so
what is
I
it
got
all
some
about?
things. I got some things to address here for. We can go into that in a little bit, okay? Now,
Right.
Steve Hoka came back a few weeks ago, and he's been doing live streams on YouTube. And we know Steve Hoka has quite a few people who like Steve Hoka and follow him, however you want to call him, okay? And I have nothing against that. My problem is this. Steve Hoka sways on everything he's ever said, and for people who don't know him, all they got to do is pay attention. Okay, he sways, and what I mean by sways is he preaches one thing and does the opposite a few months later. And he does this on a regular basis, okay? Second off, TFL, the dating scene topics, the entire time, my goal has been to try to help people. Steve Hoka's goal was to promote himself, make money for himself, and of course to get laid. Sex, get laid. Okay? And that's never been what I've ever been about. So, and I'm going to address that for this reason and this reason only. Okay? For the people who follow Steve Hoka. If you think this man can help you, you go ahead and go right on down that road. And you better remember this. When you fail at getting any help from this man, and you discover he's disappeared off YouTube again, I want you to look in the mirror and remember what I told you. Okay, I'm not going to play games with you. I know this man. I know this man really well, and I know his tactics, and I've watched him for a lot of years as well as talked to him personally. He's very, very hot-headed. He's a very, very controlling guy. And on top of that, he's not the honest Joe you think he is. And he is about himself. And all you have to do is listen to his live streams, and you will pick it up real quick and in your face that Steve Hoka is about Steve Hoka. He's not about helping you. He's about when he sees people listening to his live streams, he gets all excited. The more to come in, the more excited he gets. He's asking for donations. Yes, he's asking for donations. But now, jump one more topic. Staying insane amongst the insanity has been posting videos up on Steve Hoka. And let me tell you something. From listening to his videos on Steve Hoka, I know that staying insane amongst the insanity has been somebody who's listened to Steve Hoka for a long time. How do I know that? Because the man knows his past. He knows his past just like I know his past. The man sees through him, knows what he's about, and has done nothing but tell you the truth. And that's all he's done. Now, Steve Hoka has a female follower, and I wish him the best of luck with this female follower. And if he likes her and she likes him, great, awesome. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into that, but she has made a video at Staying Insane Amongst the Insanity, and the only one that's insane right there would be her, not him, because obviously just by the stuff that came out of her mouth, She don't know who Steve Hoka is. She's got the hots for him, whatever. Okay, her business. She don't know who he is at all, and the stuff she has said against insane amongst the insanity is only going to put her to shame. She's the one that don't know what she's talking about or what she's getting herself into. Though Steve Hoka has made us, yes, the person in the comment section said the name. He's correct. That is the name. But Steve Hoka, I left him a comment earlier today under his live feed, and he left me a comment back addressing me, and he was very polite to me. He said nothing wrong in his comment, though he does doublespeak. Because if you listen to Steve Hoka's podcast and everything he's been saying to all of these guys in his podcast, and you read his comment to me, it'll clearly be doublespeak. Because his comment clearly says he don't want to, he's through with just getting laid. He wants a serious relationship with one woman who he can settle down to, and then he applauds me and says he has respect for me because I have proven to him everything I've said, that I do what I say and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not going to say no more about that, other than all you got to do is listen to his podcast and read his comment to me, and you'll understand there's doublespeak in there. Now, if Steve Hoka's serious about what Steve Hoka wants to say and really wanting to help people, and let's just say he's serious about wanting just one woman in his life, and this ain't about just getting laid, okay, or about fame or money. If he's serious about that, I wish him the best of luck. But then my advice to Steve Hoka straight off the bat is stop doing your podcast completely. Stop doing your live streams until you can get yourself together. Because you can't be spreading the message to all these guys about if I can get laid and teach you guys how to get laid. Can you imagine? You can't be saying that kind of stuff and then turn around and tell me that you want just one woman in your life. Okay? So, anyhow, I guess I'm going to say no more about that topic. And now I'm going to address the last and last of all, true force loneliness of Toronto. I'm going to say of Toronto because you don't represent every man that lives in Toronto. Okay, so I'm sure there's a lot of men that live in Toronto that wouldn't agree with your opinion. The same as you don't address every TFLer. There's also a lot of men that are TFLers that won't agree with your opinion neither. Okay, now last week on this show, Anna and Jerry and I, we went through some things, and me and Anna, we like to joke around because we have a sense of humor. And we have fun sometimes. And I wish that everybody could have fun, because you can't keep your mind on the stress of this world and do yourself any favors. So if you can have a sense of humor and have fun now and again, that's awesome. And this is what I would wish for everybody. And so, but he took last week's show and he said that we insulted all of the TFLers. Okay, that's right. Last week's show, we insulted all the TFLers. Okay, we're just bad people now. So I don't know what his problem is, but I think he better get himself straight. He's not.
Who said this again? Was Toronto Force Loneliness said this?
Yes. Okay, so he better get himself straight because there's nobody that slammed all the TFLers. That's complete hogwash. Didn't happen, okay? So I'm not going to go there with you. I'm only going to say you don't represent everybody. Anna, Jerry, and I, we have fun when we're talking. We have a personality. But the one thing that's for real is I've always been here to help, not to hurt. I've always been against the division of men and women. I've always been against people dumping on one another, regardless of what gender it is, and the way we treat one another. I want to see men and women stop to come back together and stop the division that's been created by everybody knows who.
I mean, I haven't been here for the past couple of weeks, so I don't know. I can't really say from experience, but I mean, from last I remember, I mean, Trout Force Lonely seemed like a pretty straight dude, man. I don't know. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe I'll just have to.
I think what happened, Warren and Bill, is we were laughing about, we get trolled quite heavily. And so we were referencing trolls, and he may have decided to have taken that personally, because we regard trolls as totally separate to TFLers, and sometimes they pose as TFLers. So you guys in the chat, you can look out for that. And that's probably what we were making fun of. And we were also having to go at the 53 genders and trying to make light of it, saying, you know, okay, there could be some worse things out there than being TFL, and that could be TFL in the future when you have 53 genders to choose from, like androgyte and zoologgers and hermaphrodite, male, bisexual. You know, we were just having fun with that. So
Yeah,
we're
we
trying to make
was.
light of.
Yeah.
I
And then
thought
we
that
were
was
talking about bad dates. That was funny too. We were
yes.
talking about the worst dates we'd ever had. So we were trying to sort of like find an angle about being TFL instead of seeing it as a permanent condition, but to try and look at it as, to, you know, there are worse things. There are much worse things that could happen to a human being, you know.
Well, I see this every time when I look at like fucking Stan admits the Insanity channel. You got people in the comment section on like, well, he's a married man. And okay, look, okay, yes, but that doesn't change the fact that he's lived TFL all the way up until that point. And if for whatever reason that she decides to leave him somewhere in the future, he's gonna be right back there again.
Well,
And they don't change his experiences.
No, that doesn't change the experiences or the damage a person suffers living TFL, especially on young men. But that's not even the point. Stayed insane amongst the insanity is a very smart man, and he's awake to what's going on in this world. He sees the corruption, and he talks about what he sees, which is more than I can say for a lot of people. Now, the people that come into this show, like Holly here, okay, people like her and Off the Grid, I really appreciate these people. I really do. And I got nothing against anybody that comes into this show unless you're here for the wrong reason and you're trolling us. Now, of course, Holly don't know who Steve Hoke is because this goes back to, well, almost 15 years ago, doesn't it? Yes. Steve Hoke came around when I first come online and brought out the name TFL. So, you know, it's not people's fault that don't know who he is. But the message, you know, he's sending, the message he's sending to these men is nothing more than what MGTOW does. Pump and dump, getting laid.
The old stereotype of men being predators. That's that programming that he's using, which is, you know, oh, women are all just, what we have to do is be sneaky, and this is how you get laid. This is how we get what we want. This is how we act upon an instinct. We're going to be dishonest about it. Yeah, it's that kind of approach, and men tend to be titillated by that, because I'm generalizing, of course, not all men, but it's like, because the programming of men being a predator is just so strong, and women have been programmed, we've been programmed to believe that we're prey and you really want us. So, you know, we play along.
I want to point out an internal issue I'm seeing with a lot of the you know, TFL, Forever Alone, Incel, whatever we want to call them, people online. There's like a billion different names for the same situation, and but it's like this is what I'm seeing. It's like the crabs in the bucket mentality, right? Like, I've personally accepted my fate and decided to go pretty much almost a MGTOW path, except I don't really identify with the label MGTOW. But you know, but at the same time, I don't understand why it is people have this like this mentality, like they stop like once somebody beats the odds and gets a woman, okay, now all their experiences and all the pain they went through just disappear all of a sudden. No, that doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
I don't get that mentality, man, because
it's sort of it's almost
if
like
they're so concerned about wanting to get a woman into their life, then why is it they have this mentality where they say, okay, well, in other words, once I get a woman in my life, I'm just going to ditch everybody else who's been going through the same shit.
Well,
yeah, it's almost like emotional immaturity, isn't it, Warren? Because it's like it's like somebody who hasn't really fully matured or developed. All they want is something physical, they think they have to be sneaky to get that, and here's how you get it, and I'm going to teach you how you get what you want, and we're going to trick these women, and it's not. It's a really old, like 1950s Playboy sort of mentality. Doesn't
Well,
work
it
anymore.
is, Anna.
Oh, it's outdated.
I want to, the thing is, like, staying insane amongst insanity. He made a statement that's very true. Okay, he done a video not even an hour ago that I listened to, and he brought up my name, and he brought up himself, and he says, let's be honest. Steve Hogan, the years he's been here, he comes on here claiming he wants to help all these TFL guys and help the dating scene, and then he just takes off the first time he gets somebody in his life, even on a date, takes down his videos and is not heard again for 6 months. And then as soon as it didn't work out, he's back up here. And then, and then he brought up me and says, look at Bill. He's got a wife, he's got a child, and he's been divorced, and he's got another wife, and he's still up here helping people and never left and never took anything down. Well, that's the point. If you're here to help people and you're serious about helping people, then you want to talk about what's right. And when Steve Hoka sends the message to all these guys that if I can get laid and teach you all how to get laid, well, if you wonder why women say that Oz guys want sex from women, well, let's listen to this talk. If I can get laid and if I can teach you how to get laid, well, if I was a woman, what would I think? Aren't you pushing that message very clearly to them?
Yeah, men and women are both all about sex in today's society. I mean, men have a higher sex drive on average, but but that's women's power play too, though. I mean, so women are.
Yeah. And women, I mean, if you put it, just reverse it. Supposing you had Betty Hoker. I don't know this guy, so I can't comment with any kind of, not the knowledge that you guys have, but just based on what you're saying. If you reverse it and you had a female up there going, this is how you play a guy, and this is what you do, and this is how you get his money, and this is what we're going to do, and then you dump him. And it's like, it's really juvenile. It's cruel, and it's cruel. It's not these are not the words, or it's not coming from a place of wisdom. But then if the man has come up and said, hey, pointed out to you, Bill, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, he knows what he's saying, then maybe he's learning, and he's sharing what he's learning as he's going along.
Yes, exactly. Well, we're all individual human beings, for one. And for two, I've said this many times, all I want to see is women and men be able to come back together again, and children to be able to grow up with a mom and dad, and have people respect one another. Okay? And that's hard to do when you're in a culture and society that's been programming both genders separate of one another and creating as much division to destroy the family unit as they can. And we all know why. If you're already tied up into the political of what's going on in this country and what's going on through history over and over. And I can show you so many examples of how the dating scene has been manipulated and controlled by the very people who are destroying our world right now.
It's kind of interesting that we have a situation where, okay, people can be what they want, which includes, like, being whatever gender you want, despite not having the equipment. It's like, or you can be what you feel. It's just not realistic. This is all.
And this is something I've noticed.
On reality,
they've made the illusion so much more comfortable than the reality. What's going to happen is that people who are brought up in this illusion, the longer they're brought up, having their fifis comforted and shit like that, they're not going to be able to handle reality. Reality is going to be like a huge rude awakening for them. They can't handle it. Right. That's why the deeper you get into pushing the truth, the deeper you get into, the more controversial it gets, the more you'll be attacked. Because you're cutting through layers and layers of bullshit. People can't even handle the surface level shit.
Right.
I mean,
Well, that part I can't take away from Warren at all because it's correct. I mean, it's absolutely correct. And people, Jerry and I was up here last night. You know that we're up here every week, at least until our live stream gets taken down by a certain company that we won't say their name because I don't want to give an excuse. Okay? But we all know who I'm talking about there. And if the live stream disappears, maybe we'll find another way to come back up again. But just the same, it's like this. We want the corruption in this society, in our world, stopped. We want the people who are committing the corruption held responsible. We don't want this as a show. It shouldn't be entertainment, a show. And men and women shouldn't be in the situations they're in our society. And we shouldn't have so many children without dads or without mothers or fathers killing one another or killing their children. This stuff needs to stop. You need to know what you're doing. If you're going to get into a relationship with somebody, at least have half a clue of what you're doing. And both genders need to understand that means it's 50-50 straight across the board. He's as much responsible for half everything as she is. It means knowing that it starts with friendship, okay? Knowing that it starts communication and trust and understanding each other's feelings and respecting one another's feelings. It's not about control. Go
I
ahead.
think it's also about firm boundaries as well. You have boundaries for yourself as a person. You share this much information with these people, but you might not share personal information with people you work with, for example. You're not going to
Yes.
share all your personal business with people you work with. And then, in a marriage, obviously, this is your partner. You're going to share your life with them. You're going to share as much as you can so that there's an honest relationship and an honest foundation. And you need to have a boundary around yourselves as a couple. So, because I've heard that many times where women have been putting their partner down in public to, demean the man, or I've seen men do that with, women belittling their partner in public, that sort of behavior.
I
That
You
is
know,
wrong. That is wrong, and I know
want
what Anna's saying because I've seen it myself, and both genders are responsible for doing it because I've seen both genders doing it. You do not have a group of your friends over and belittle that man in front of your friends, humiliating them, and he doesn't do that to you. That is so
mm,
wrong.
mm. And I
I,
think, with True Force Loneliness from Toronto, I'm sad that he took it so personally, because it was, something that we were trying to share with TFLers is, that you don't have to have a miserable time. It's not, it is tough. It is hard to be lonely, but there are alternatives that could be worse. And to try and buoy each other up, and use that sense of humor in not a toxic sense of humor where you're putting people down, but a sense of humor where you lighten each other up. You buoy each other up along the way. Because this is part of our path right now, being lonely.
yeah. And I mean, what was I going? Yeah, yeah. Interesting to think because I was thinking about this, man, and I'm kind of like, here's a confusing scenario here, and I'm still not exactly sure what to make out of the LGTB situation. Okay, I don't want to be ignorant and just, oh, well, I'm just going to hate him because he's gay. I get it on one hand, but at the same time, I got to realize that there's an obvious agenda behind this at some level. And you see how it went from accepting the gays to accepting the trans to they've already got articles out in the Guardian talking about we should accept pedos. And I mean, I can see where this is going, man. I mean, it's being used as a springboard to gradually push deviancy into society. Now, am I saying that every gay person necessarily is a deviant or that they're a bad person? No, I'm not. But you can see this angle where it's going, man. I mean, it's
I think that the gay and lesbian movement has been infiltrated by whatever nefarious power wants to manipulate that movement to introduce the trans movement, to introduce confusion, to introduce an acceptance of a morality or a lack of morality, into society. It's another little social engineering.
And the LGBT thing is being used as a. The LGBT thing.
For the movement.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm done. Go.
You can go ahead.
I just say I just feel sad for the movement, but in the same way that I feel sad for anybody who's committed to a particular belief system or a particular lifestyle, how those belief systems and lifestyles eventually get infiltrated and how they eventually get manipulated into introducing an agenda that had nothing to do with the original intent or whatever that ideology was in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying, man, the LGBT movement is being used to gradually
to be affectionate towards one another. That doesn't necessarily mean anything to do with it being sexual. I mean, just genuine affection. Whereas men are not in our culture, in Western culture anyway. I think there's some tribes in New Guinea that are fine with men holding hands, boys holding hands, and it's not a homosexual thing, right? It's just a gesture of affection. Which sounds really strange, but yeah, men in our Western culture have been taught no, that's not what being a man is, So
hold on, Hallie says she don't hear us anymore.
Oh, she will. She will.
Okay.
We had technical difficulties with the program here, so while we were talking, I had to fix the problem. So here in a minute, they're going to hear us. We'll probably got a little bit of lag where they lost us. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to say we're offline, but we're back on.
Mm-hmm.
So give it a second. Okay?
Yeah.
So, well, I better not talk until I know that we've got sound, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we should have sound now. Okay?
Can you hear us? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're answering. We had difficulty. It froze up, so I had to.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, I didn't want my topic to get because I really wanted to focus on this for a little bit. This whole LGBT thing, man, has really got me kind of confused, man. Like, you draw the line somewhere, but at the same time, I don't want to be ignorant, but at the same time, I also don't want to be I mean, like, you see where this is headed. I mean, you got to draw the line someplace. I mean, I look at transgender people, and I don't know. Maybe I mean, like I said, I want to say, I don't want to be an asshole, but at the same time, like, if you're born with a dick, you're a guy. If you're born with a vagina, you're a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, that's the reality they want to change. That's what it's like. We read through the 63 genders last week, Warren. It was hysterically funny. There's always going to be variations, and there are XXY chromosomes. So, in biology, it's an XY chromosome makes a male, XX, is a female, but you will get XXYs, and you will get people who are biologically built differently. But to suggest that you can be what you feel like, that's a whole different ballgame. So that's what I'm saying is that they're manipulating it.
And here's the thing.
Reality.
Here's the thing, okay? I'm not saying that they didn't exist at all prior to this generation, but it was very rare, almost to the point of being non-existent, unless you actually went to those types of clubs or something, that you'd ever see a transgender person before there was all this transgender awareness stuff and all that. It's almost as if it was a trend.
Here's my problem.
Our guys have been so emasculated.
Here's my problem, okay? And I'm not... it could be just me. It's probably just my personal little bugaboo. But when I'm watching gay parades, Mardi Gras, etc., and I'm fine. I think it's great. Yes, gay and lesbian people should not be vilified for being honest to themselves and being who they are. And if they have a partner in hospital, they have the right to go and visit their partner in hospital. When things like that, they were denied being able to visit a long-term partner in a hospital bed. Well, that's cruel, so Those sorts of things were rights that I think were, were valid rights to fight for. But I have a problem when I'm looking at, men like guy raiding with each other in the streets, trying to basically sort of like almost having dry humping in the streets. I don't like seeing straight people dry hump in the streets.
Yeah, I
know
don't
you
understand.
do it. There's just
I don't
remember that
understand the.
boundary. There are some things that are just private. That's all. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
I don't
And
understand the approach.
why would you want to be represented that way?
I don't understand the approach of their protests when they come out here. Right? They said we don't want people seeing us as freak shows. We want to accept us for who we are. So what do? They dress like a fucking freak show with fucking leather and bondage and ball gags and goddamn whips and chains. And they go out there and they start fucking blowing each other in the streets on fucking floats and shit. And they wonder why. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for having fun, but it just like it goes so extreme. It's like, is that how the gay and lesbian movement really want to be represented, and you want to be taken seriously? Like, I don't. Like I said, having fun is one thing, and then I think to me it just goes into a whole. It goes so extreme, it becomes repulsive to me personally. But I would be repulsed if straight people behave that way in a parade as well.
Exactly, man. Like if they came out there looking like respectable, presentable people, man, not looking like some sort of cartoon festival or something, and they actually just made their point like mature adults, I wouldn't see an issue with it. I'm not against people being gay necessarily, because I'm not so sure that they choose that.
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
like I said, the outrageous costumes and everything, I'm fine with that. Yes, I'm fine. I'm just not okay with, people kind of licking each other's faces and dry humping in the streets. And that's of any gender. I don't want to be represented that way. I don't understand why this movement has allowed themselves to be infiltrated, to be represented that way. And then they ask for rights. Where's the responsibilities?
Nobody wants responsibility. That is one of the biggest issues we have. Everybody wants to do stuff, but nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions or the results of things they do.
Yeah.
Especially women in our. I'm not saying there aren't irresponsible men too, but the social dynamics of our situation has taught women that they can pass all their responsibility off to men, and that equal rights without equal responsibilities, where all the responsibilities is thrown on to the men. That's not to say that there aren't irresponsible men.
And here's what I hear with that is what you're seeing is a mass immaturity. Yeah, women who behaving like little girls, expecting to be, have all these little daddies taking care of them. They're not fully grown adults with that kind of mentality or that kind of thinking. In the same way that perhaps Steve Hoker was not presenting an emotionally mature outlook towards finding a relationship,
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's exactly it. If you want respect, you have to earn the respect. If you're here to help people, then know what you're doing before you help people, because otherwise what are you going to help them with? The propaganda our society's already fed them?
Here it is, man. Here it is. People start off with common courtesy, and from there, they either earn respect or disrespect. Depending on how. That's the way I treat people, man. I'll approach somebody with common courtesy, and depending on how they react to me, I'll eventually either develop respect or disrespect for that person, or indifference. Depend. Yeah.
It's a learning experience too. When you're in a relationship, hopefully you learn with one another and you grow together. You're never going to have a non-flawed human being. None of us are without flaws. So I always think if I can find compatible dysfunction, I'll be all right. But you know what I mean? You'll find somebody that you go, okay, I've got these strengths, you've got those strengths, I'm weak in this area, you're weak in that area. Let's work on these weaknesses and see if we can, focus on the strengths for sure, but, start healing some of these weaknesses and change them together as a partnership. What is it in a relationship that we can both develop, so we can grow together?
Well, relationships are not easy to begin with, because both people have to understand that it takes working together, good communication, friendship, trust. Okay, and I mean trust. If you can't trust your partner, you don't have a relationship. You have a disaster.
Right.
Okay?
And here's another thing. I think we all, and I'm going to put myself in here too, you know, that we all have to learn how to take the word no, you know, because we all get rejected and it's really, really hurtful, really painful. But if we can learn how to deal with like if someone is just looking to get laid, they're going to get a lot of people saying no to them, you know,
Well,
because not everybody's
if
just
all
supposed to
they're
get
after to
laid.
get laid, you can get that from a prostitute.
Right.
I
Or you
would
can get
agree.
a
I
dog to do
agree.
that in the street. It's not a great achievement, you know.
I agree with that totally because for the people who say, "Oh, I'll teach you how to get laid," well, I'll teach you how to get laid too. Go on down to Vegas, outside of town. They have these houses that you can go, and you can spend all the money you want and have legal prostitution, and there you go. Now that wasn't hard, was it?
So
But
what you learn from that experience is that to be intimate is only to be physically intimate, but completely devoid of any emotional intimacy. That's what they learn,
Yeah.
and then that becomes the normal.
Yeah, I mean, what it does is it dispersonalizes sex, man. It's like it becomes the point where sex is more of a chore than it is something that you enjoy. Because back before I knew what was going on in the dating world, and all that, but back when I was more blue pilled, you know, there was a time when I used to go to hookers. I don't do it now. But I mean, like I said, I mean, you know, after a while, I just felt like you're burning a hole in your pocket. I felt like it was meaningless and mechanical after a while. It's like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was good at first initially for oh my god, I can't believe I'm actually getting somewhere. But like once that wears off, it's like, you know, it's like okay, it's a meaningless fucking void. It's a fucking meaningless act. I mean, it's just like a mechanical thing you do. I mean,
Right.
you know, and you just.
Yeah, I'm a big favor of dancing, and I'm not talking twerking. I'm talking about face-to-face dancing. You know, one, it's fun. Two, you get to move your bodies. You get to feel, oh, am I attracted physically to this person? And also, you have a conversation. You can have a conversation with someone when you're dancing. So you get to find out what they're like, what you both, you know, and then okay, it's a dance. It's just a dance. And so maybe there wasn't the chemistry. So you move, you know, those progressive dances. You move to the next partner. It's like, and that was the rule of that dance. You have progressive partners, but it's not, you know, it's not all kind of I don't know. It's not that kind of humping each other in the street stuff. It's like
Yeah, you know.
it was a nice ritual. It was a nice sort of ritual where you got to learn about each other, you know. And then I've heard feminists who will argue, oh yeah, but you're, you know, as a female in a waltz, you're dancing backwards, and I'm like, you know, but change the steps if you don't like it. But it's tradition.
I want to point out an epiphany I had the other day, and Bill, you'd find this one pretty interesting too, man. Okay, female hypergamy, when it's coddled, it grows, right? In other words, the 80-20 rule is going to eventually become the 95-5 rule, right? And for generations, we've been hearing all this Darwinistic bullshit about the superior genes and all this stuff, and how they're pretty much trying to, you know, protect the gene pool from imperfect genes and all this horse shit, right? Now let's think about this here for a moment. How is this going to eventually lead to to inbreeding? Think about this. Okay, let's say 5% of the men, or let's say 10% of the men. We'll even go 10. We could even go 20% of the men. Let's say there's 20% of the men are actually the only men who aren't TFL. Okay, now that means that all babies being born are going to share that DNA of that top 20% of that men. How long are you going to start having inbreeding going on?
I just think,
and
you know,
I'm pretty sure
that's
inbreeding is not good for the gene pool.
That whole eugenics movement is the quest for perfection, and you know, in nature, you know, things they don't grow in straight lines. You know, things are curved, leaves fall off. You know, we need to appreciate the beauties in some of the flaws and supposed imperfections that
But what it's doing is it's inbreed. It's going to eventually lead to inbreed, which is going to lower the IQ and make people more docile. At the same time, you know, genetic traits are being culled out of the gene pool, and you know, so what's been happening here is they're breeding uniformity. They're genetically attacking individuality at the womb. So they'll breed individuality out.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody will be the same. You know, everybody's gonna have the same traits, same characteristics. I mean, hell, maybe everybody's gonna be pretty much inbred, and they're all gonna share the same DNA as this top 10% of men or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I just what jumped into my mind was it's kind of like a franchise restaurant deal. It's kind of like, okay, McDonald's, every city you ever go to in every country in the world, you can go to China or you can go to like Singapore. I was in Singapore, and it's a beautiful country, and then you got McDonald's, and it's like, oh, well, what's different about this country? It's like we have this homogenized sort of food chain, and then we're going to try and do that with people as well. Have this homogenized race, yeah, I hear you.
As far as Hamburger, man, he's talking about he's got Asperger's. I got Asperger's too, man. I feel you, bro. But he's not like, as far as being unemployed. Well, I'd recommend don't worry about women right now. Work on yourself. Look for an employment, man. And look, in today's society, I'm not saying you should completely shut the window altogether, but don't go looking or expecting for women, man. And you're better off being on your own than with being the majority of women in Western society today. Relationships in West are very toxic in most cases because most people don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's funny that we Aspies are ones that are being told that we're the ones who are socially disconnected and have bad social skills. But it seems like, in a way, I don't know you personally, man, but I can at least say with myself, I seem to have a lot more maturity than a lot of these non-autistic people when it comes to that. So I don't know. I mean, it's Chinese riddle, right? But my advice, man, don't worry about women right now, bro. Focus on yourself, man.
So, and someone made the comment, I think it was Toronto True Force Loneliness, described me as not a true forced lonely person. And it's true. I did not have the experience of, rejection in the same sense that many of the men that I've heard stories from have shared here. But I did choose my true forced loneliness. I had to take a time out because of my bad choices of partnerships. And I am not a victim because I recognize I made those choices. So, but I had to stop. I had to stop and start looking at myself so that I don't go into a relationship playing a game. I don't go pretending I'm somebody I'm not. Like I used to do a lot of that to try and impress the other person, and I was needy and would try to impress the other person to make sure that they would stay and all of that. It was messed up, so I had to look at myself, and that's why I have chosen to be, and it is lonely, but you can be lonely in a relationship too.
You sure can.
Yeah, and I noticed because back when I've had 2 girlfriends in the past, oddly enough. But it is like that, man. Like sometimes, like even when when you're actually in a relationship, it's almost like, God, I miss being single. Because you get so much drama.
I know that place. Yeah, I know that.
Well, the drama has replaced a lot in the relationship today, and so many people want to create the drama, but yet at the same time, you don't realize when you create drama, you destroy the relationship you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And the more drama you create, the more damage you do, until one day they're not with you no more because they've went up to their throat with it. They're not going to put up with it no more. Nobody should have to put up with drama from another person who claims they love you. Because love is not drama. It's not about drama. This is programming that's caused this, and you got to get through the fact that we've all been lied to, manipulated, our whole lives, and drama. I don't know many people that like drama. You know how many times I hear people say, I hate drama, I do not like drama, and then go right into a relationship, and the very one who said they hate the drama and don't like it is the one starting all the drama and making all the drama.
You know why? Because part of the game is pretending that you don't play games and bullshitting people. I mean, that's really how fucked up it is. It's like lying is part of the game. Like they put on the mask. I mean,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
i.e., I don't play games. I.e., I'm playing a game as I'm telling you that I don't play games.
I mean, we're all human beings. We all want to look
You
our
know, I
best. We
mean,
all want to sound our best. We want to present ourselves to be the best selves we can be to another person. Of course, we want that. But when it goes to the point where you are betraying who you are in order to please another person, then it's unhealthy. And with the drama, I've got another take on that. I was thinking about that. I hear that from a lot of men. Oh, I hate drama. I hate drama. Like all women are drama queens, and okay, we definitely were programmed with the soap operas and the romances and whatever to think that romance is supposed to be a certain way, and if the relationship doesn't live up to this expectation, which is generally unrealistic, then yeah, women are probably going to question that. I'm generalizing again, not women. But I do know too that sometimes women can read men as being very indifferent or distant or aloof, like they don't care. So we almost speak two different emotional languages, and it's trying to navigate that and trying to be able to find problem solving in the relationship, when we hit conflict, because you're going to have conflict. That's inevitable.
You sure
But if
are.
the conflict escalates into a drama, that's where it comes
Well,
unglued.
I've always said this to people. There's no two people that ever agree upon everything.
Yeah.
That's just not possible. I don't care how much you love somebody or they love you. You will not always agree. And so what you have to try to do is find an even ground. If
Yeah,
you
I
have
agree with that.
if
Yeah.
you have a disagreement, and so then just say you want to do something and there's a disagreement about what to do. Well, one time you give up your way and she does her way, but the next time a conflict like that happens, she gives up her way and he does his way. It's called you
Mm,
got to find that even ground. It can
mm,
never be one-sided.
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with that. I think yeah, it's about how do you find. It's almost like you have to write your own little relationship constitution. When we hit a conflict, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to talk this through? Do we walk away for a little while, think about it, then come back? How do we handle and manage those conflicts? It might be about children, raising children. Someone might have one technique and the other person has a different technique, and they disagree on how these children should be raised.
I think
So
the key
those,
factor when it comes to TFL, man, is managing. I mean, you got to bear in mind that women are the selectors. It's a matter of managing female hypergamy.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand
I
that. I
mean,
also understand what Anna's
otherwise you got
saying.
what you got now. You got again, I don't mean this to sit here and put people into numbers and stuff, but I'm just doing it because it's easier to explain the concept. But you know what I mean? You got like right now, you got women who are like a 3 on a 10 scale, going up to guys who are like 7s or 8s. Well, what does that mean for that guy who's a 3 on the 10 scale? Well, now he's got nobody. You
Mm.
know. So I mean,
I'll share a story with you. I the last date I ever went on was about be a couple of years, so time back anyway, and not a match, not compatible. But there I am again, trying to sort of like do all of these backflips and everything else to sort of please this other person. And this person would say, yes, I'm going to show up at a certain time, and then they would 3 hours later they send me a text, oh, I'm still doing this, I'll see you in another hour, and then in another 2 hours. And so basically my time was being wasted waiting for this person, when all they could have done, all they needed to do was say, listen, I can't make it. And that would have been fine, because yeah, I would have been annoyed, but I would have gone on with my day. I got a life. And
I'll say this though, man. If a situation were reversed for whatever reason, and for some reason, let's say the men were the selectors, and things were reversed, and men had like male 310s had access to female 810s and up, you'd have the same situation in reverse.
You sure would.
oh yeah,
There's no doubt about it. You would. Because unfortunately, it comes down to this. It's called power, which is the same as greed. And
People
power
are
and
going to want
greed don't
to.
have an end. It don't have an end. They want more, more, more. And power, unfortunately, like greed, it corrupts the human mind.
People aren't going to want to accept a mate who's equally attracted to them if they can get a mate who's far out of their league, like above, like within like levels of like somebody who's far more attractive than they are.
But you
Like,
know what's pathetic about this? But you know what's absolutely pathetic about that?
huh?
Okay, the fact is, when it comes to the attractiveness level and the number system you're going on that society goes by, most of that is programming, because when you get to reality, reality says nobody keeps their looks. Nobody but nobody. You all
Yeah.
lose them looks.
I mean, I personally believe. I mean, I need it's not the most important thing, but I need a little bit. I gotta have like 10% attraction there. I mean, it's more about personality. I mean, I'd go for an average looking female with a good personality before a runway model who is absolutely toxic, or maybe even before for somewhat decent personality, runway model. I mean, I'm looking more at personality than looks, but there's got to be a little bit of
I
attraction.
understand what you're saying, Warren.
I mean,
I'm going to tell you something. This is actually funny, and it goes into this. When I was working for Maintainer, which is a company that builds commercial trucks, four of the guys and myself were standing there talking, and this guy, he's an older guy. He's probably like 15 years senior to me, even at the time, right?
yeah.
He makes this statement. He says, if you guys want a woman who's going to be faithful, not cheat on you, and not run around, he says, then you need to find the butt ugly woman. He says, if you're chasing these 8s, 9s, and 10s, he says, you're chasing what you're going to get. She has every time chicken dough hitting on her on a regular basis. She has all the choice, all the say so already, and she's going to cheat on you. And this is what he said. He says, I don't care what any woman says. 90% of the females that are in this category will cheat on their man. He says, and if you don't want that, you got to find the butt ugly woman. Now I'm laughing.
Here's what I'm going to say to that. I have a problem with that whole rating of human beings from a scale of 1 to 10. I get where you're coming from. It's like a looks thing, and I think that's a male thing, but men and look. I don't know, maybe women go for men's looks, I guess too. But it's like it's so sad that I look at it this way. And there was a Facebook post of all things. There was this poet or a guy who spoke about the people being like a car. You have a car, right? And then there's somebody who's driving the car. People are more looking at the car and the kind of car that's being driven instead of the driver. What's inside.
I mean, I never went through 8s, 9s, and 10s. I mean, I'd go for anywhere from maybe 4 to 7s. I mean, to get rejected. I mean,
it sounds like low self-esteem there. It sounds like you're comparing yourself, and you're not.
I'm not trying to compare myself, but I'm saying there's got to be a little bit. I can't force myself. Like, if I can't see myself with somebody, like it's just like I can't be physically repulsed by. I mean, I don't mean that in a demeaning or derogatory way.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're all attracted to certain body types for sure. We're all attracted, but how much of that is being dictated by the culture that we're in, and how much of it is really coming from us? And but anyway, there's definitely got to be a chemical or a chemistry there, for that physical attraction part, of course. But if that's all there is, I mean, this is the person.
I'm not saying that's all there is.
You want to be able to have a relationship when you're sick, when you're dying, when you're at your worst, when if somebody's got a flu, are you going to be like, oh wow, she looks horrible with a snot coming out of her nose? That's it. I'm out of here.
But Anna, you know what most of the TFLers' complaints will be? In 1 to 5 seconds, the woman already knows she don't want anything to do with him.
Wow.
And that is no lie. That's actually factual. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and it is true. Most guys' rejection rate happens in 1 to 5 seconds.
Wow. How do they know they're rejected? I mean, what is it coming?
The woman's body language, for one, Women have a bad habit of telling on themselves without even knowing they did.
But sometimes men too, to be fair, I'm trying to
Yes,
just find a
yes,
balance here.
yes. That is.
Sometimes a man might approach a woman in a way that it can be very threatening. You know, like I know that really nice men that I know, I've seen them, you know, like when they go in and they're trying to flirt with another, these are friends of mine who will go and flirt with somebody, and I watch their body language change, but they sort of like, it's like if towering over or invading body space too early for a female is very threatening. Now, that's not to say that women don't have their own behaviors too, that, like you say, are very dismissive, you
Well,
know.
yes, yes, that is true. Okay, but the
Hmm.
thing is most TFLers, you'll find out the almost, almost all the TFLers will say this: the rejection comes in 1 to 5 seconds, and I know
Wow.
that to be true. Okay, now in
Okay.
some cases, it's the guy, the way he approached her, that can be true. Scared the hell out of her. Other cases, maybe the guy's dressed like a slob, dirty and smells. Okay, and
I
uh,
gotta say this.
I
I gotta
just,
say this.
I just
In
give
the
you different
online dating
scenarios.
thing,
Okay, you
I,
know.
I'm all for I'm all for reality, but in the online dating thing, right, I can't stand it. I can't do it because I feel like I'm in a supermarket and I'm supposed to make a little selection like I'm choosing groceries or something. I just hate the whole process.
Oh, it's like
But
going to
it's
the meat market, ain't it?
but
You're
there
picking
are
out your
photos
favorite
that
piece
are
of meat.
hysterical of men sitting there holding their beer, and they've got like you know, their belly, belly sticking out, and it's not that I'm not like adverse to people with a beer belly or a belly per se, but it's like you want to show yourself at your best, right? At your best, and and I've seen some photos on there that I'm like, they would you would want. They look like they've just come out of prison. But then there's a lot. I'm sure that there are female photos that are portraying, giving a message that women don't really want to be giving out there too. You know,
Oh, I know
I've
what
made
you're
those
saying.
mistakes too.
But I think there's a
Yeah.
variety of reasons because we have a commenter in here brought up something that I believe is true. He says women can smell fear like a junkyard dog. So when the guy's all nervous and scared, that can also be a demeanor. But
Uh,
there's other women that are, you'd classify them as gold diggers. They're looking for somebody who's got a lot of money. So they look at the guy 1 to 5 seconds. Is he wearing a Rolex watch? What brand
right.
of clothes is he wearing? Is he in
And then they
today's
flash the
style?
credit card or the
Yeah,
bank.
that's why I
Yes.
got to cut him off when he says about you need confidence too. It's not about confidence, man. That's always they say it's about confidence. Women don't give a fuck about confidence. Women care about looks, money, status.
Hmm.
Yeah, most women
I mean,
are going for that, but then let's look at the reality. Didn't society program them that way?
yeah.
Did they not tell that the man was the provider and protector? What does provider spell? So when the
Money.
woman's programmed this way, she goes out there with that programming and she looks for the Rolex watch, the brand of clothes they're wearing, and blah, 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 the programming. In 1 to 5 seconds, she's going to reject a whole lot of men at that rate.
Okay, so that's just shallow rumor, right? That's not the majority of all women. So why is this problem of TFL here in such large number? Why is it a growing issue then?
Yeah.
That's what he says. He says that's shallow women. But if that's just shallow women, if that's not the majority of all women,
And women, like if we, and I'm just putting this out there as a
okay, so now he's
like,
assuming we're only chasing after shallow people. He said you shouldn't be chasing after shallow people anymore. How do you know who these people are? I
well,
mean, I'm pretty
maybe
sure these guys have been going for women of many different types in many different places, and they haven't succeeded.
have you noticed though how shallow as a culture we have all become?
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I'm
We're
not saying. I mean,
products to consume now. Like I said, we're like little products on a supermarket shelf to be consumed by one another instead of valued. You know,
Exactly.
we're a throwaway society. We buy a pen to write with, and it runs out of ink. You throw it away. Once upon a time, you had an inkwell, and you kept using that pen and dipping it into the. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
yeah.
it is,
We're such a throwaway society. We're a consumer mindset, and we do that with each other now.
Yeah.
And I think men are the victims of that because women are the product. Women are the, you know, we've been groomed to think that we're prey, that we're, you know.
Well, you know, I
And
want to say something here. When he says, okay, in my opinion, okay, being the difference of our relationships with fathers and mothers. Well, let's just clarify something when you're talking about fathers and mothers. In today's society, you have any idea how many children are out there growing up without a father or without a mother? So that leaves
You
one
know,
hell of a lot of children growing up without
and
one or the other.
it did make me laugh that the middle class feminists, you know, when the feminist movement of the 1970s kind of took off, and it was like whether a woman should stay home or go to work, and it's like working class women never had a choice. They
Yeah.
never had that choice.
well, you know that too. I mean, like deadbeat fathers are rightfully so scorned, and they should be. Deadbeat mothers are rewarded with a welfare check. I mean, I think both deadbeat mothers and deadbeat fathers should both be fucking scorned. And they
Well,
should
you
both be held
know,
liable.
the welfare check
mean,
thing went out the door several years back. It don't matter what part of the United States you're in. It don't matter what
yeah.
your gender is. You have exactly 5 years. 5 years. And for every month you're on welfare is recorded. When the 5 years is up, you will not get welfare in no state in the United States ever again. That was to put a stop to the welfare that you're talking about. Because in this country, one time it was a welfare country full of women on welfare. Okay, getting more and more money from the government off of more and more pregnancies. But
And I think the idea behind that was to make sure that the children were well looked after, fed, and provided for. Unfortunately, it seems to me there's a lot of females that have lost that natural mothering instinct
well, they
because
married
you've
the
got
government.
generations of
Yeah.
mothers who you have generations of abusive mother after abusive mother after, and then it's almost like this mothering instinct or this natural instinct to nurture is almost being bred out.
Well, it was. It was actually it was all one thing. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Destroy the family unit. Destruction of the family unit.
Well, the
Because
state
this
wants
man
to
here
raise our
says it all
children.
comes down to the
That's the
family in
problem.
the end.
Yeah,
When
the
we
state
had
want to
And
raise our children.
And look, some of these deadbeat fathers, okay, some of them are actually deadbeat fathers, and they, you know, some of them aren't even deadbeat fathers. Some of them want to be good dads, but for whatever reason, they can't get access to their kids because the mother is using the courts and the laws to keep her kids away from keep his kids away from them.
Yeah,
well,
They
that's
want to
wrong.
be good dads. There are men out there killing themselves because they can't see their kids.
Yeah, that's wrong.
but,
Yeah.
but
You
this is
know.
but what Warren is talking about is true. And to this gentleman here, when he says stable families, stable economy, fair access to education, this fixes most of your TFL problems. Yes and no. Stable families has been gone for a long time. The destruction of the family unit has been in everybody's face for a long time. Okay, it's to the point now that the family units, to find a stable family is like finding a needle in a haystack.
I'll say this, man. You know, a lot of brown cultures, like Latinos and Arabs, at least relatively speaking, are more family oriented, at least for the time being, than we are now. Maybe that's just a matter of them coming over here and becoming westernized. I don't know, but I mean, because that hasn't happened yet, but I could see that happen in the future. But as it stands right now, man, they have a lot better family values on average than we do in the West.
Yeah, well, everything's out of balance in the West. Everything's focused on want, not need. It's focused on want. And it's focused on the focus on sex is ridiculous. You know, so you've got this we're getting an over sexualized culture. We've got children exposed to sexuality at a very early age. And so it's all about, it's like all of these, I know it just sounds morals. What happened to our morals? What happened to our sense of right and wrong? What it's really comes down to some really fundamental common sense principles. that we have lost because if we were happy, if we were a happy society, why are drugs such a huge problem?
And what you notice too is a lot of those societies where family values are still in practice are places where, at least relatively speaking, on some kind of level, the man is somewhat more respected. Like a man.
Hey, I love
the reason they attack men is to attack the head of the household, so that they can tear down the family unit.
Right. Yeah. And there are all the alcohol commercials where they have like all of these like very glamorous party people drinking it up at whatever, club or on a yacht. And come on now, let's be honest. How many people have you seen drunk on vodka? There's not glamorous. It's never glamorous.
Yeah,
But women don't have rights. Hold on here. This person says, but women don't have rights. No, they have more rights than men. I don't know what country. I don't know what country you live in, but it must be a great country over there.
I think he's talking about like the Muslim countries and stuff. And I mean, when I look at it like this, I mean, me and Bill disagree on this. Well, I believe in a kind of a soft patriarchal kind of thing where men and women both have different privileges. Not that you can say one's better than the other. If men are disposable providers, right, that means our humanity is drawn down to serving women in order to put our lives on the line, to risk our safety, and to dedicate our lives to financially supporting another human being, right? So there's got to be something there to equal that out, right? That's why men would vote on things. Men would lead. Men would be the ones. I mean, because that coming from nature, I think, is where we came from. I think that generally speaking, I mean, on average, men are evolved more to lead. Women are in general more evolved to be taken care of. Women have different privileges. They can choose a man who will take care of her and keep her safe and provide her a life. And that's her privilege. So men and women have different privileges.
Always there are, it's really hard to generalize on this stuff, but I remember meeting a woman African-American woman who had been beaten by her husband. And she had 2 children and he kept beating her. She kept going in and out of women's, what do you call them? Women's shelters. And, and kept going back because she believed strongly in trying to keep the family together and she believed in the marriage, but she kept getting beaten. And that was coming from a place of low self-esteem, I think. But
anyway, I don't believe in like hard, like abusive or oppressive, like a patriarchy kind of thing. And I don't believe in that.
Too. I'm not saying this doesn't happen to men, but this is one particular case. And this particular woman, he started beating the kids. And when he started beating on her son, she picked up a gun and she shot him. She was put away for 10 years. And in spite of the fact that they read in the court all of these like charges, I mean, all of these assaults that she had endured, I mean, a ridiculous amount of beatings that this woman had, which is stitches and broken jaw. And then when he beat her child, that's when her mother instinct, now this is a case of where it stood up, she stood up like the big fierce mama she was, but she was put away for 10 years. Was it because she's African-American? Was it, because okay, murder is murder, but it was, she acted on an instinct to protect. And you only had to look at the record of what this man had done to her. She was trying to stop him from doing this to a child who could not protect itself, so
yeah.
Those are the things. But there are cases where there are men who have been treated the same way. Men get beaten by women as well, and we don't have that highlighted. And there are no shelters for men to go to, and it's almost like a joke or a thing to be ashamed of for a man who's, if he's being beaten by his female partner.
It is. So, it's become just what Anna was talking about all the way. And unfortunately, understand this. That wasn't no accident. The reason there isn't men's shelters and men got laughed at when a woman beat him and there was nothing done was because that's what our leaders, our daddies at the top, wanted.
Which is not serving women It's like how do I put this? It's kind of like for Caucasian people who are take a privilege for granted. I've never had to worry about, you know, being denied access to an apartment based on the color of my skin. So I don't know what that feels like. How could I know if I've never experienced that? Am I happy that African American and people of color have to go through that experience, that kind of, institutionalized racism? No. I would prefer an equal playing field. So, the same way, if there's an imbalance now occurring in the legal system that's biased towards women and protecting women and sort of leaving men by the wayside, am I happy about that? No, because I'm more interested in an even playing field.
Here's the thing.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. I don't think they're going to win anybody over by throwing that term white privilege around, because it's been used as a bludgeoning tool to beat people over, white people over the head with. And look, I mean, it's almost like they're just assuming that everybody who's white has had it easy and they've been given everything in life because we're white, and which is absolute horseshit. I mean,
there's that. I'm just talking on a general, because I've experienced it. I've actually been asked, can you make the phone call for me because I want to apply for this apartment, and because I'm African American, I don't think I'll get it. And I was horrified, and I've seen it happen. I've seen it close up and personal, and it's horrible. It's
I
horrific.
understand
How we treat human beings of color, how we treat human beings of other genders, how we treat each other.
I understand exactly where Anna's coming from, and what she's saying is true. I also have to side with Warren on this because your government has used white privilege as a tool, okay, and got people believing of a different color that all people, on an assumption that are white, grew up somehow privileged because of the color, and that is complete hogwash, okay? But you
I
got to understand.
disagree. I completely disagree. Completely disagree on that one.
Well,
That's all I can say.
that's your privilege to do so. But the thing is
No,
this.
it's not a privilege.
Hey, it's your right to do so, but it
Mm.
still comes down to this. If you really look, I mean, I could show you a few black people that come up and says white privilege and tells you that's they're being racist. They're being racist as all hell, and will straight out tell you they cannot be racist because their skin is black.
Well, racism doesn't have a color.
Oh, but you got to tell them that, because when you
got to tell them that.
you do, they're going to call you a closet racist. So
and they
Anna
want
will
to tell you
become
that
the
you're
new.
practicing your white privilege
Exactly.
by calling out their racism.
Exactly.
Well, racism doesn't have a color, and it depends on the. Here we go. I can't really generalize because it does depend on the culture. It depends on the background, and it depends on the experience. The experience of what the Africans are going through. African refugees
Well,
in
I can't.
Israel.
I understand what you're talking about there. Okay. My main focus at this point was in the culture that I live in. When
Right.
you step outside that culture, I cannot tell you what it's like in any other culture I've never been in. So when I say what I'm talking about, I'm mainly talking about the United States.
Look, I'm gonna break this down for you. What I see here going on here. Okay, I'm not racist against people of any color. I am somewhat of a race realist to a certain degree. I do think on a collective level there are differences that are kind of bred into us through this eugenic system on a collective level. But that's not done on an individual level. Individual, everybody's an individual. But what I see going on here is this. Basically, white people are going to be a minority in the next 20 to 30 years. And for whatever reason, I guess they've decided that they need to depopulate a lot of the white population. We're going to be a minority in most of the world, and right now, they're kind of engineering this attack on white people and stuff like that. I mean, it's almost like history's reversing itself. But at the same time, I don't blame all black people. I don't like what they're doing, man. Is the way they've used the liberals and all this victim mentality kind of narrative and stuff to hoodwink the blacks and the people of color is the same thing that they're doing now with the white people through the alt-right, right? Like they give you, a plantation party and a shepherd party, right? For me as a white man, my plantation would be the Republicans. My shepherd would be the Democrats. No, if you're a black man, it would be reversed. Your plantation is the Democrats and your shepherd is the Republicans. You see what I'm saying?
I guess where I'm coming from, it's just I just want to see an even playing field. I don't like the division. I'm not alt-right. I'm not Antifa. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not Republican.
I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you, Anna, on that all the way. You know, one of the very first videos I ever made, I called it Men and Women's Rights. And what I said in that video was just exactly what Anna just said. I wanted equal straight across the board for everybody. In doing so, I was attacked by 4 feminist women and told I was a misogynist woman hater because I wanted both genders to be equal. Then when Black Lives Matters came out and was speaking all their rhetoric, I made a simple video and says, all lives matter. Okay? In doing so, I was called a closet racist.
There was a good lawyer who pointed out that Black Lives Matter was not, no one was saying that white lives didn't matter, but it was at that time, I think, and then it's hard because we know that movement was infiltrated by Soros. But the point of that movement was when the police were killing a huge. I know they do assault and attack and kill white as well, but there was an inordinate, like a out of proportion sort of amount of African Americans who were suffering at the hands of.
Do you know why that is? That's because they create a disproportionate amount of crime. That's why. I'm not being racist, but look, a lot of these these Afrocentrists are extremely. A lot of them hide their racism. A lot of them can actually be friendly to your face, but those the ones that aren't very friendly, and they'll defend them. I mean, they got an endless litmus fucking test of goddamn. I mean, the fucking endless miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of excuses every time black trash does something wrong.
That's something that we don't have.
That's something that.
You know what it is. We happen to have the same.
White liberals give them those excuses. White liberals give them the excuses to run with, and they run with them. I mean, that's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we just happen to have the same skin color as the oppressors and colonists of old, and there's a history here. There's a history, we happen to have the same skin color as the people who kept African American slaves. What we're missing, of course, is that there were white slaves, there were white indentured servants too. And so, it becomes the big divide, and just based on our skin color, we are not to be trusted.
And furthermore, there are black slave traders. The black slaves that were sold in the West were sold to white colonists from black slave owners in Africa, where they were enslaving their own peoples. The slave trade is much deeper than race. I mean, every race has been enslaved by their own race and every other race ever since the beginning of time.
It's true.
Yes. It's sad.
All I'm in favor of is an even playing field. Because let's stamp out that whole myth about the white. Well, it's not a myth, but I mean the whole thing about white privilege. Stamp it out. Let's create an even playing field.
I stand with Anna saying. I actually stand with Anna on that because an even playing field for everybody, regardless of skin color, regardless of gender, needs to happen. Because without that, you're always going to have division.
Well, as far as black trash dropping bombs on kids and all that stuff, no, but they're creating a disproportionate amount of crime. They're tearing up cities and stuff like that. Look, I'm not saying that the whites are perfect. I'm not defending any of the shit that our government does. You can't judge people by what their government does. We have no control over that. I don't judge all black people because of the disproportionate level of crime that's coming from their community, because that's not every black person's fault. I know some really great black
poverty,
people.
You're looking at poverty there, so too, so.
Yes. Well, it's a deep topic, but I'll tell you what, guys. We're going to get out of here for this show. Warren, you're welcome to stick around for a little while if you want. Just don't hang up, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, but I'm going to end the show for now. And
how did we spin out into that? How did we just spin out into that?
I'm looking at the time, and I'm trying to keep us under the 2-hour mark now.
I hear you.
Okay.
No, I'm laughing at how we just we go off into these
because
different.
We could go into
how
these
is this related
different
to
topics. Yeah.
Slavery in Africa is much different than slavery in America. It's bullshit. Slavery is slavery. Then again, you're just trying to make whites uniquely more evil than everybody else. That's bullshit. I hate when I hear that argument. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I won't go into
like we're the ultimate villains. We're the ultimate bad guys. I mean,
division is division. It needs
the
to be
oppression Olympics. We've got to be the most oppressed, the ultimate victim on the block. They're intimidated by anybody else's struggles, but because they're afraid they might not be the ultimate victim on the fucking block. Yep. I mean, that's the mentality that the liberal has taught black people. That's the same mentality that the right is teaching white people, bro.
It is. It's division. I'm going to address. Hold on, Warren. I'm going to address Ron here, and then I'm going to end the show. Okay. Ron asked me why there's no Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio charged money. I paid money to Skype so that when people called in and that were living overseas or whatever, that I could bring them in through Skype to Blog Talk Radio, and I had a paid account on Skype. Through censorship and Blog Talk Radio's greed, because Blog Talk Radio censored me many, many, many different shows. But through their greed and working with, Bill Gates, who owns Microsoft, who owns Skype, they've updated Skype so much that censorship became, if you live in Canada and want to call into Blog Talk, you can no longer hook in through Skype with me. You now have to call and pay long distance or international charges so Blog Talk could make more money by selling me a $300 a month package to give them permission to call into Blog Talk. So Skype is no longer. I no longer use Skype. Censorship is censorship, just like division is division. And you got to understand, we've all been lied to. There is no right. There is no left. There is no Republican. There is no Democrat. It's all one side controlled by the very same people, and it's all an illusion. And with that being said, I'm ending the show for now. And until next week, I'll be back up here on Sunday with Jerry. Okay? And back up here on Monday with Anna. And if Warren's here, he's always welcome in. So with that being said, stick around, Warren, and until then, you all have a good one.